Hello, my name is Blademaster Fox. I'm a greatsword main fighter. I've been fighting for 10 years since last month. I'm here to teach you guys about the beginning steps of using a red sword. I wouldn't call it like day one, but definitely like, I want to be a red fighter. What should I do? That's what today's title is. Not 101, maybe 102. So I'm hoping that everyone at least has their own red sword. I'm looking, when I say a red sword, something that's under 6 feet. Something you're going to swing with 2 hands. Something you're going to be using not in a line battle strictly, but something you'll use as a duel as well. What I first want to talk about is the main processes when you're using a red sword, is that I suggest that every single person wears some sort of hand protection. Please protect your hands. If you do not have things on your hands, you cannot fight anymore. And you should also get in the habit of make sure that people when you're fighting against also have hand protection. This is very easy to hurt other people while you're using a red sword. I'm using a 50-inch greatsword right here as an example. This is on a 602 kite spar, 0.602-inch core. It's affordable, it's easy. If you want to learn to make one, find me later, I'll show you how to make one. What I want to talk about today is using your sword in this first part on how to stance in a way that's comfortable and keeps people away from you. My suggestion is have your right foot forward if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, everything will be opposite. Have your sword tip face forward, have your hands together, and point it towards your opponent's neck or their chin. This will allow your opponent to not know how long your weapon is and keep them away from you. When you're generating force to throw a red shot or to throw a shot, you want to push with your top hand and pull with your bottom hand. Once that shot has been executed, you can then do the reverse to bring it back to your body. Does that all make sense? Mm-hmm. Yep. Am I going too fast? In order to generate force, you can use your upper body or your lower body. Using upper body is going to be your forearm, your bicep, triceps, your shoulders. Your lower body is going to be your hips and your legs. So a lot of times when you're throwing shots, you're going to be throwing just your arms, but then what your legs are doing, they should also move at the same time, right? Shot, move, shot. Make sense? Mm-hmm. As you get better at it, you can throw and move at the same time. So you can move in either direction and throw. I'm a very big proponent of using a weapon to stab with as well. Every single one of your guys' red weapons should be able to stab as well. We're in 2023. There's no reason you should have a weapon that doesn't stab. The easiest stab I'm going to teach you guys today is just called a drop stab. You have your sword, take a left foot step, let go of your hand, have it go underneath, and push forward. It sounds very simple, but it's very easy to throw. Have it in line with your knee and push forward. I'm going to do a little bit of a lecture first, then we can get together. If you want to stand up and talk to me, we can go through these motions as well. Does anyone have any questions so far? Forward. Someone have a punch shield? There we go. This is Farron.
Hi, Farron.
Hi, Farron. I'm gonna throw what I would consider to be a red shot, a good shot, right?
Okay.
You say that's a good shot? Yeah. Okay. In that situation, I'm only using my arms, right? Now, if I incorporate just my legs, right? Just my legs. Incorporate both. I can get a much harder red shot out of it, right? Also, my damage was sort of red shots do not have to be this crazy over-the-top, I'm going to destroy someone shot. It needs to be a shot that is above the power of a blue shot, a good sufficient blow. It does not specify that you need to move their shield, move the person, or move their body, right? Mm-hmm. You can manipulate that in good ways, especially if they have a shield that has a flat edge on it. I use a quarter of the force I used before to just hit their shield. You take that as a red shot. Same thing with, we're going to go turn around. I'm going to throw a cross. Does that make sense? You do not have to throw haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. Because let's say they already had a red shot on their shield. They didn't tell you. You hit them once, they drop their shield, and they're just going to haymaker them straight into their hand or into their hip. It's not cool. You want to have friends after this. In addition, when you're fighting in sword and borders too, that forward stance keeps them away from you. So you guys know what the worst thing about a sword border coming in here, right? You die. A quick advice is that if someone is rushing towards you, throw towards their upper quadrants. Because in this situation, if I throw towards a lower quadrant, if I get Farron's leg, I will still die, right? But if I throw towards upper quadrants and he comes towards me, I can still prevent him from throwing shots back at me by threatening his hand or his shield. Thank you, friend. Any other questions about that? Tough crowd.
You're really concise.
That just means you're a good teacher.
I guess. Someone else have a Minride want to come up here? Billy, you want to come over here?
I don't have my memory.
That's fine, easy.
Crash brought him in.
Oh, Mako. Mako, come back!
Oh, he went so far.
You did. This is my apprentice Blue.
Hi, Blue. Hi, Blue.
So if you're fighting against another red fighter, right? Typically, your swords are going to be kind of at a 45-degree angle with each other. There's not a lot of times they're going to be facing directly in line with each other. That's just weird, right? But that 45-degree angle is good. I'm going to give you guys a concept known that I prefer to call it the greater thirds and the lesser thirds of fighting against someone else. The greater thirds is going to be the area where they're most able to block. The area that they're less able to block. I can throw here, and Blue is able to block it pretty easily all the time. If I come over here, it becomes less likely for Blue to block. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to be throwing a shot in the greater thirds, I can then fake into the lesser thirds. Right? A lot of times, intermediate red fighters will get stuck throwing into the lesser thirds over and over, looking at Crash and I, over and over again. Well, we'll just do this. But we'll do it to each other.
Yeah.
Right? It can be frustrating. You can get out of it by throwing fakes and getting afterwards. I'm going to show you that stab I did before on a red fighter. Step into the hip. Right? Let's say I throw it and I miss. Woo! Right? Blue comes and engages me. The worst thing I could lose is my arm. If I'm smart about it, I can just leave. Thank you. Sure. If I miss, right? I can still leave. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
What's your footwork on the stab? Like
On the
when
stab?
you step, are you stepping like just lateral or are you stepping like legal?
The footwork on this is going to be a half step forward with your primary foot, then a backwards diagonal step with your lagging foot this way.
Okay.
I guess I might also show this too. When you're blocking with your red sword, people always think, oh, it's like sword and board, block with your hand, right? No, bad time. Block with your handle or your foam. If I'm going to throw a shot at a 45-degree angle right here, the idea is to block it, but not your hands as much as possible, because over time you will hurt yourself. So learning how to block at different angles with just your handle or your foam will help you over time. What I suggest doing is the motorcycle method as well. If you take your sword and lift it upwards, you're actually making your forearm move inwards to protect you from shots as well. So I'm going to throw a cross shot, and you see that Blue is kind of rotating their arm outwards, right? That's going to protect the forearm. Same thing on this side as well. Throw it towards me. Other way. Make all sense? Yeah. Cool. A really basic shot that a lot of red fighters who are new want to use with especially 5 foots or so is called a casting shot. That's going to be a one-handed shot towards a leg or another appendage. All that really is taking away your top hand and throwing it down. I like putting my lagging foot forward, just getting a leg that way. Over time, you can get for shoulders, you can get for arms, you can throw big wraps with it too. That takes time and practice, but for right now, guys, if you're new to red fighting, just go for lower quadrants. Get that leg, especially if you're able to find a situation where you have a longer sword than they, you can take a step backwards and like them. That is the main chunk of the absolute basics that I want to talk to you guys about. Where to put your sword tip, how to put your hands in a certain spot, how to throw with your both hands together, some basic simple shots you can throw with your buddies, and basic safety. Does anyone have any questions except that? Yes, Wayward?
I wanted to ask, what would you recommend is the best or simplest defense against a cast?
So if someone's throwing a cast towards me,
Yeah.
so Blue's going to throw a cast towards me, right?
Deflect down.
Just get rid of it. If you get rid of it, you now have control of the fight.
Yeah. Like even with a longer weapon, my recovery here is gonna be bad for everything.
Or I've also seen doing a counter cast. See enough time. You can just remove them, and then I would from here. You're stuck on my sword. I'm just gonna stab you. There are some people who are like, "Oh, they're gonna cast from my leg." Let them. Cool. I'm just gonna kill them. I would only throw a cast when you have a sufficient amount of time to engage and disengage. Because if you throw a cast, you're like, I'm here. Shit.
Yeah.
But if you're also like, they're running towards you, and they're like, cast, but they're still running towards you,
Yeah, because
I will still die. Now, if you have a back shield or a buckler and someone comes towards you, and you or a spin cast, that could be different because you have a back shield. Any other questions? Maybe we can start going into more intermediate stuff. What's up, man?
Let's do that spin again.
How would you deal with getting armed? Because
So if I am armed,
yeah,
I will tell you that one thing I learned very quickly is that if you are armed, still throw a shot. If I get armed here, I'm still going to throw something right afterwards. If you get a situation where you get armed, you're like, oh no, I'm armed, I'm ruined, I'm going to lose. But if you get armed, and you still have a plan, you still throw something with your live hand, because you still have two hands of weapon, that's when you're going to be able to throw those one-handed casts really well. I really like stabbing when I get armed. So let's say Blue throws a cross over me. I'm just going to put this into Blue's ribcage. Does that answer the question? Another question? What's up, Paulo?
So, explain, like, let's say I throw a cast, and let's say this cast miss. Is the best option to just return back to guard, or is there maybe another option to do if you miss?
There's something I like to call intermediate hanging guard.
Okay.
So after I throw a cast, let's say it misses, I'm going to put my sword tip and my thumb down. I'm going to do this and leave. Okay. If I throw the cast and Blue blocks it and continues onto me, that's going to give me enough time to get my hand back on. If you feel really comfortable with your sword, you should be able to have the feeling of throw the shot and be able to snap it back into place. But if you don't have enough time, maybe like you threw something weird and you're like, oh no, you can use the hanging guard to protect yourself. If you feel more confident, instead of hanging, you can just do forward and make a stabbing motion to make them go away to give you time. So Blue engages, I miss, and I can be like, oh no. Scary.
stabs are always scary.
What's up?
Can you have Blue hit that intermediate hanging guard so we can see how strong it is?
Sure.
Because it doesn't look strong, but it is.
Like that's on the handle. Even the tip is not. Because it's really good to get to it.
Yeah. And I'm still moving backwards.
Yeah, but as you're moving backwards, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's just a Fox works out.
Fox doesn't work out. He just lifts red swords.
Yeah, no, I don't go to the gym at all.
Wow.
Someone else
That makes him even more impressive,
Far
Fox.
apart range, though.
Sorry, I don't know your name.
It's okay. So, when you're starting out with the red, you go out on the field, a lot of times you're facing throwies and spears, and everybody's got a sword. So, big players. So, I was a red, then red, and I was back in the
So I'm gonna have Farron help me with this one. So, if you have a smaller red and you're fighting us like some of the bigger board or multiple opponents at the same time, if you have other teammates with you, just by yourself, Okay. I will always just go for their sword hand. They can't throw a shot back at me if their hand is occupied. And I would always go towards their sword hand or towards their shield, depending on how long your red is. I have a shorter red, so I'm going to go towards their sword hand. Yeah. So I'm going to go across my body, chopping into them, and moving towards my left, so I can keep doing this to prevent the sword and border from attacking me. If they decide to throw a shot, I still have distance, or I'm getting free red hits on their shield. If you feel comfortable doing it, you can throw shots at her face and get a leg and say goodbye. Let someone else deal with them.
Let me throw a shot while you.
Sure. Did your head?
Little neck.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. It doesn't matter.
Use your big sword.
Piercing? I was going to say it doesn't matter if I throw a high toss. I'm going to throw a butt wrap.
Sure.
So.
Now if I have a bigger sword, this is a 65-inch normal size tournament sword, I'll typically go shield side. They can't reach me because I have a longer sword, kind of thing.
I worked so hard in that moment.
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to hit your hand.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. I'm going to do a little training you can do with your sword and board buddies. That's a very good practice for especially shorter reds against sword and borders. Is going to be a red shot to the shield. It's going to be a direct block to your hip, and then shot to their arm. Slow motion. Red, block, arm. If you get used to this combination, eventually you can start hitting shoulders. But even if you just get a forearm, they're going to die because you're engaging on them afterwards. So you find your sword or buddy, make sure they got good gloves on. The arm's going to hurt like hell. Do it in real time?
Yep.
Does that all make sense? Here. You can defeat most sword and borders that way if they're thinking about throwing that hip wrap. Most sword and borders like to. What's up, Crash?
What happens if he decides to throw a dark side?
So, Farron throws a dark side.
Shield dead.
I died.
Darn.
So the dark side's always the answer.
I will throw a U. So be it left slow motion. Here, block. I saw that it went over. Having that short U to protect you from someone you know who does a lot of dark sides. I think someone else had a question.
I think it was just the other half of his question with the throwies and stuff. Is
Yeah.
mostly like a back shield thing? Or like
So if there's a lot of javelins or arrows, find a sword or border, put a back shield on or a buckler on. You're not, in our sports, you're not allowed to hit the floors out of the air except for javelins. You can't really block arrows very well. It sucks. Does someone have a spear? Or a long red?
I can run for it here.
No.
Yeah. It's kind of a twist I see a lot of people with back shields
I can
do
go run and grab an 8.
to catch arrows and
So I'm
stuff.
talking about, if you want to block an arrow, what I'll do is bring my right hand shoulder to my left hip. And that will usually cover myself from everything.
You want me to go grab a 8-foot or?
No, I'll just use Vash's big stick. Vash, you want to help me with this?
Yeah.
You're fighting against a spear, right?
You want me right?
Sure. Go right over. If you're fighting against a big pole or spear, and they're just letting it out there to dangle with you, you can hit it from this side, but the goal is to get your sword underneath it, and it will lift it up. So I'm gonna do it over time. And then you can... See how that lifts upwards? They can block this side easily, but they're not going to be able to block their whole back. Or you just double it. If I had a bigger spear, it would make a lot more sense. Switch hands. So you're the other way around. It still works the other way. Hey, where is at the cross. Now, a lot of times spearmen are going to be having this kind of overhand hang and stuff like that, and that might be a little bit more difficult. I just scoop it this way, and you can flick them up.
I thought you said the lock.
Any other questions?
When you're trying to do that flick, how do you deal with them adjusting and trying to throw an angle stab around?
So as long as I have contact on their spear, because I have two hands on my object and it's closer to me, I will have way more leverage than they will.
Okay.
If they're going to try to resist me, then my goal is to bring my sword upwards. Now I've won.
Okay.
Because my handle is now past their tip, and I'm going to do whatever I want.
Understood.
You can also feel where they're going.
Yeah. You do get a lot of textural information just by touching their spear. And as you go up. Any other questions?
How do you deal with someone with a height advantage over you?
So if someone was taller than me, Fane, you want to come over here? Fane's like 4 inches taller than you.
Don't give him an apple. But I am taller than you.
You are taller than me. This is Blademaster Fane. Third Blademaster Fane. Blademaster Fane. Oh, there we go. Now he's taller. So Fane not only is another 5-6 inches taller than I am, you're also using a 65-inch red, and I'm using a 50-inch red. A lot of times it ends up being, he wants to stab me or go for long-range casts or shots like that. I have to bide my time in order to advance on him in my own, like, or my own assertiveness against him. So I'm going to try to bait or find a way to get you to swing something at me. Then I'm going to engage as hard as I can. So I can either punch his shot out of the way and then throw a shot afterwards, or make him mess up really. I may throw things that are also one-handed, be like, oh, you have to block that. That gives me some initiative. Sometimes they'll have their sword out, you know, they don't really like to do. You can blade beat and then throw afterwards, if they have the longer reach. But a lot of times they're going to have their sword down or up, away from you fighting them. But you just want to stab them. I really like to But that's the basics of having to fight against someone longer or taller than you, is to get that good either interrupting shot onto them or wait for a shot thrown on you to block and then engage.
Do you want to show it with match length and just height difference?
So like if I'm two-handing shotting him, he can kill me and I can't kill him. So if you throw a shot towards me, I'm having a completely perpendicular block towards his strike, which allows me to have the most power against his shot, and then I also have a lane to get his shoulder or his arm. I really like doing perpendicular blocks and strikes to gain a lot of advantage on him. If you have a block for a shot towards me, and I have it shallow, it may not always block. You can always get through. Throw from the right side. Yeah. This is going to be a very strong block for you because it's on your closer side, and then you can engage.
Can you show that in reverse?
All makes sense. What's up, Paul?
I feel like it's also important to note back to the short tall question is that like if you are height deficient, most people are going to throw at what's easiest on you, right? So if you're short, I think most people are going to probably throw high, right?
Yep.
And they're going to focus on upper quadrant. So you understand that that is going to happen. You can use that to your advantage as part of a setup to close or to make those shots happen on you, so that way you can do something with it.
There's probably 1 or 2 people that I will actually throw a horizontal over my head guard because I'm so short and they're so tall compared to me. Or they're using 7-foot blade and a power shield. But a lot of times I may have a diagonal guard. I don't really like doing overhead this way because my body gets cocked over and it hurts. You could watershed, but that's not good for righty versus righty. Really only righty versus lefty.
Ew.
And then how often do you think yeah. So I'm just going to have that diagonal block there. And that covers the majority of my upper quadrants. Then I can engage. What's up, Farron?
How you deal with someone who
either head blocks or redirects to face off.
So one more time, but louder.
How you deal with someone who either head blocks or redirects to face off?
I just gut them. So like if throwing for upper arms or shoulders don't happen, I'll just fake towards it. They move their head into it,
Yeah.
and I will just clear through it. That just is an adjustment of down and over to get through.
Where's Flint for that shot?
Right there.
I'll send
It's
you
like
the link.
400 million views now, right?
It's just me in town. I told you we have a program.
You're right,
It just
right.
watches. Fox, and this might be more towards fame, but like when you are a taller person against shorter people in that scenario, like what are you looking for? Like what are you worried about with him doing to you?
I don't want him to stab me.
Yeah, if they just like you said, if he like tries to time me out and catches me, and like breaks my rhythm of the like casts and like picking that I'm trying to do at him from far, if he can like stuff that and then explosively close, it's pretty good. It's strong.
So that's what you're like. It's almost like pulling that way. Like as the taller person, we're most worried about them trying to like explode at us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if he gets in there, it's very sneaky.
What's a watershed?
Oh boy. Water shedding is a traditional Japanese technique. Throwing your bottom hand upwards and having your forward hand go beneath it. Normally, it's used against righties versus lefties. And I'm able to block my upper quadrant and my legs at the same time. It's known as a watershed because if you were having a shed, the water would fall off of it. You can watershed into a chop over. I don't like throwing that shot. It is very dangerous. I like watershedding. Ooh. Oh, that's fun.
Thanks, Fox. Especially right
I'm stealing that one. That's nice.
It was very fun. With an Omni, it's even more fun.
Yeah, but I've never seen it with a right-handed person.
You can do everything a lefty can.
He's trying to
Hit me
preach
that
this
way.
as lefty.
Yeah, but it looks backwards when Rage Johnson
If you guys have any more questions, we can talk about it one-on-one if you want. But thank you guys for coming. I'm here till Sunday night. Let's do it for fun!